Today we're going to talk about some of the best skills in civilization, eras, and allies, and we need to lock in with the engage skills in this installment of what might become a series, if you guys like this, where we talk about the best skills. Because in Season 1, I've got to say, engage dominates the meta. Now look, if you don't know what an engage skill is, I got good news for you. I have a dedicated video breaking down exactly how combat works in the game. So I'll have a card in the end screen for that video, but for now, you can stick with me as we go through what the best skills are. And a big thank you to the makers of Civilization, Eras, and Allies for sponsoring this video. If you haven't already downloaded the game, you can use my link in the description, and using that link will support my channel. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get into the skills that will help you disproportionately get those sick wins in Season 1 and Season 2, and possibly beyond, but I'm only in Season 2 currently, okay? Now, from what I understand of my first season and what's to come, a lot of armies seem to be relying on upfront burst damage, take out your enemy within the first turn. Engage skills are obviously crazy strong, okay? And in a world in which everybody's trying to burst you out before you can do the things you're trying to do, you need to have an engage skill, something that lets you take your actions in the tactical phase, turn 0, so you don't miss out on being able to act at all. Now, we've covered these combat mechanics in depth, so again, check the card in the end screen if you need the full explanation of the way that combat works in the game. The dedicated video that I made for that will be incredibly helpful. This video is going to focus primarily just on the engage skills. And let me know in the comments if you like this video and you find it helpful, because if so, then I will make this for passive skills and active skills, and we'll just kind of continue through the list here, all right? So in no particular order, let's get started with what I think the best engage skills to harvest are. And the first of those skills is actually going to be Fabius tactics. Now, I can scroll down to show this to you. I don't actually have it yet, and I wish that I did. So what does this do? It's an engage skill, as I mentioned, range of 3, 100% chance to trigger. During the first 3 turns, reduce 2 allies' engage damage taken by 30% affected by end. So you can make yourself, obviously, more tanky. In a world in which engage armies are wrecking, this protects you, okay? You're protecting yourself against burst armies. It's great for sustain. If you have a survival army, it's going to keep you safe for the first 3 turns. This is best used, obviously, on an int hero. You're looking at someone like Sun Tzu or Cleopatra, both of whom I recommended as top 5 heroes in Season 1. I'll have a card in the end screen for that video, where I break down what some of the best, easier to access heroes are. So you can definitely check out that vid. But how do you actually get this skill? Well, good news, bad news. Bad news is you got to get it by retiring BQ. By chi. I actually don't know how to pronounce this, okay? But you want to pick this skill up when you can, unless you're planning to use the Kin Empire Bond. So let's pull up BQ real quick. Here he is, BQ, all right? Now, the reason you would not harvest this skill is if you want to move all in on the Kin Empire Bond. This makes it so that after the battle begins, you stun 1 enemy hero for 1 turn. This is a powerful bond, and you're going to need a couple other heroes to make this work, obviously. You're going to need QSH, who is very difficult to get, and Meng Tian, who I'm probably pronouncing his name not properly. But the difficult one to get in this lineup is going to be QSH over here. So if you're not headed in this direction of going for the QSH, who's a peerless hero, you get rid of your BQ, you harvest the skill that he's got there, and that is one of the best engaged skills. I've probably got 6 skills I'll pick out for you here. Fabius tactics. Absolutely outstanding. All right, now this brings us to the next skill. And the first 4 skills, like, they all kind of have a similar theme here. So you're gonna notice this immediately, and then afterwards you're gonna be like, right, I understand why this is powerful, okay? So it's going to be another engaged skill, range of 4, trigger chance at 100%, and the skill is Overwhelm. I also don't have Overwhelm, by the way. Rep chess cool. So what does Overwhelm do? For the first 3 turns, increase 2 enemies' engage damage taken by 30%. So if you're the one who's going to open with a bunch of engage skills, you can do a bunch of damage. Seems good, right? Seems good. This is the counterpart to Fabius tactics, but now you're debuffing the enemy to increase engage damage taken. It's great on any int support type hero. You can see this pattern already that this is going to be really good on burst armies, but you have to get this skill by retiring either Cleopatra, who I do own, and Otto von Bismarck. So, I said the skill's good. Should you go for it? So I would not recommend retiring Cleopatra to get this skill. Maybe I'm a little biased because I have Cleo and I've made really good use of her. But I think you would prefer to retire Otto before retiring Cleo. The reason is that Cleo is one of the best engaged debuffers in the game. I marked her as one of the best heroes to go collect in the early game as well. So do I think you should get rid of her? No, obviously. Now, Otto is a part of a solid combo army, but he's going to require more investment to build that army, and to get Cleo up and running is pretty easy in a survival setup. So I would recommend that to get the skill, you would get rid of Otto von Bismarck rather than Cleo. Cleo is really outstanding. This brings us to the next skill. The next skill, skill number 3, in no particular order, as I mentioned. And that skill is going to be Expert in Attack. During the first 3 turns, increase 2 allies' engage damage dealt by 30%. You see where this is going? This is like the opposite of the last one, right? So instead of making the enemy take more engage damage, now you're just dealing more engage damage. It's very similar to Overwhelm, all right? But instead of debuffing them, you're buffing yourself. Can be used on any end support heroes like Sun Tzu, who I mentioned earlier. And a combination of both this skill and Overwhelm stacks just a ton of punch on burst armies, like obviously. If you're going for the burst approach, which is, in my opinion, meta in Season 1, you make him take more damage with the other skill, Overwhelm, and then you get this one as well, Expert in Attack. How do you get this skill? You're going to have to retire George Washington or Charlemagne. Now, my understanding, and obviously I don't have either of them right now, but my understanding is that Charlemagne is a great int damage dealer, okay? And between the two, I think that means you got to go consume George Washington, all right? So the thing about Charlemagne is that my understanding is that although like both Washington and Charlemagne are kind of B-tier heroes, my understanding is that you can make probably like an A-tier lineup with the right skills on Charlemagne. Whereas I don't know that you're able to do that with Washington. Certainly, he doesn't seem to be as popular. So Washington is kind of interesting in that he gives a chance to double attack on each turn. And he can be really powerful, obviously, in a combo army for that reason. But I just like don't think he's a part of any of the meta armies right now. So this is the perfect skill, or the perfect commander, I should say, to go harvest the skill. Because Expert in Attack is incredibly powerful, right? And Washington, at least right now, is, as far as I can estimate, not, right? At least not part of the meta. So this brings us to the next skill, and that is going to be Precision Strike. And you will, as I told you, notice a trend of like what makes these engaged skills all powerful is we're kind of modifying the damage that we deal during engage or damage that we take during engage. I actually have Precision Strike. The way that this one works is that for the first 3 turns, you're going to reduce 2 enemies' engage damage dealt affected by int. So you're going to now decrease the damage the enemy deals during engage. So if you're trying to get bursted out, or trying to avoid getting bursted out, I suppose, this will make you survive a little bit better, right? This is similar to Fabius tactics and the counterpart in Expert Attack, but it's another way to sustain damage against burst armies. And a combo of both Fabius tactics and Precision Strike can be really great on in support heroes, either in the center or the vanguard position. Keep in mind, this skill will not be compatible with Cleopatra, since her main skill already applies a reduction to engage damage dealt by enemy male heroes. How do you get this skill? I have good news for you, and there's a reason I have this. It comes from a hero that is easier to obtain, and that's Arthur Wellesley. I would recommend retiring Arthur Wellesley pretty early. I would say that he's easier to pull, so you're likely to get multiple copies of him. And although he's a nice tank early on with a solid engage skill, you'll replace him pretty quickly as you advance your roster. So I think getting this skill and pulling it from him is a pretty solid choice. I don't know if you do that on like day one necessarily. I guess it depends on your level of spend, but this is a really solid skill that will prep you for surviving the engage meta that we're kind of in. All right. This brings us to the next skill, skill number 4. And this changes pace a little bit with what we're doing for the pattern. I mean, we've already talked about all the ways you can like modify damage dealt and taken from engage, right? But the next skill we're going to get a look at here is called Preemptive Action. And Preemptive Action is going to make it so that during the first 3 turns, there's a 90% chance to disarm 2 enemies. And it cannot be erased each turn. So this skill is the best counter to combo armies because you can't do basic attacks if you're disarmed. This is basically going to make those armies useless for 3 turns. Seems good, right? The way that people refer to this skill is PA, Preemptive Action. Works great on any center or Vanguard hero. And how do you get this skill? You're going to have to retire a hero who I should have looked up how to pronounce his name. It's Guyback. Let me show him to you, okay? We'll go to the recruit section here. Let me grab it. All right, so here he is. This is who you've got to retire. I would say you get this hero and just retire him immediately in Season 1 for the skill. Now, you could use this skill conditionally, right? Preemptive Action, when like you know for sure that you're up against a combo army. But this is such a strong skill. I think you can just run it all the time and be really happy because even if they're not doing combo attacks, which require a basic attack to happen, getting rid of the enemy's basic attacks is still valuable and makes you more tanky, more survivable, right? Because they literally are not going to do their combo damage or their basic attack damage to you when they're disarmed. Huge win. So I think you get this hero, you know, obviously you need to manage your collection and what you've got, but you can retire him pretty quickly for the skill. All right, which brings us to one final skill. It is going to feel kind of similar to the last one, but a slightly different effect. And this skill is going to make it so that active skills get shut down. All right, the skill is called Total Blockade. Let me pull this up for you. Total Blockade makes it that during the first 3 turns, you have a 90% chance to silence 2 enemies. Cannot be erased each turn. Trigger rate of this effect reduces by 25% on turns 2 and 3. This is the best counter to active skills. And this skill is actually the reason that engage armies are so powerful. Because you can basically shut down your enemy's active skills, and you can't really deal with these engage skills very easily. So silence means that the enemy cannot use their active skills. Most armies will have some number of active skills. This is pretty much always going to hit. And it works great on any center support or Vanguard hero. How can you get this skill? You're going to need to retire one of 2 heroes. It's either going to be Meng Tian or Joan of Arc. And spoiler alert, you're almost certainly not going to retire Joan of Arc. She's a peerless hero. She's very strong. So you're going to need to retire Meng Tian in order to get Total Blockade. This is a powerful skill. It dismantles what a lot of enemies are going to be doing. And, you know, obviously I don't have it yet, but I would love to be able to include this in my roster. All right. So that covers 6 engage skills that are incredibly powerful in no particular order. And which heroes you should and shouldn't be getting rid of in order to harvest them. I feel like this kind of video is helpful. If you want me to do this for the active skills and the combo skills, let me know. You got to leave a comment and tell me, and I could make this style of video. There's obviously a lot to collect in Civilization Eras and Allies, and there's a lot to know. And I do enjoy games that put a lot of emphasis on game knowledge rather than like can you land your headshots? So if you want to check the game out, you could use the link in the description to go download it. A big thank you again to the makers of Civilization, Eras, and Allies for sponsoring this vid. I'm now in Season 2. There's so much I want to talk about with Season 2, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that one because I've got a lot that needs doing here, okay? But if you want to watch the video I referenced earlier about how combat works or the top 5 heroes from Season 1, check the cards in the end screen. They'll be here and here. And until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.